Chapter 71 The Imperial Sect and the Demonic Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yunmeng Mountain is located in the western region of the Kamikaze dynasty, thousands of miles away from Xianyang County. This mountain stretches endlessly, and there are thousands of lakes of various sizes in the mountain, all of which are naturally formed. Viewed from a high altitude, it looks like pieces of emerald embedded in the mountains. Quick, get up, don't let it get away. As a shout rang out, a bright light suddenly rose from a natural lake on the top of a mountain, covering the entire lake like a transparent cover. Wow! The lake water surged with a huge colorful figure. Suddenly it broke out of the lake water, hit the transparent golden light shield, and was bounced back. Hey, with the big formation, this colorful dragon and carp won't be able to escape. Junior brothers, let's catch the turtle in an urn. Just around the lake, 8 young men in black robes stood. These young people are all handsome, with powerful auras. Everyone is in the Xinqiao realm. The highest level of cultivation has reached the 5th level of the Divine Bridge realm. The lowest level of cultivation is the 1st level of the Divine Bridge realm. The black robes they were wearing looked extremely special. There are 2 blood-red words embroidered on the back: control the devil. The word royal is small, and the word magic is big. If there are monks from the Kamikaze dynasty here, they will definitely know that these young people in front of them are from the demon sect of the Demon Control Sect. The Yuzong sect is divided into 2 major factions, the Yuzong and the Demon Sect. The people of Yuzong are relatively small in number and belong to the weaker faction. The Demon Sect lineage has a large number of people, extraordinary combat power, bloodthirsty killings, and a vicious reputation that shocks the entire Kamikaze dynasty. Therefore, when ordinary monks see the demon sect of the Demon Control Sect, they will stay away from them, to avoid causing unnecessary disasters. Fellow disciples, a black shadow broke through the sky and shouted loudly in mid-air. Everyone who was about to take action suddenly stopped and looked up. I saw an old man covered in blood falling from the sky. Hee, isn't this the deacon elder of Yuzong? The leader, a young man in his mid-20s, narrowed his eyelids slightly and watched Elder Zhu descend from the sky. The demon sect lineage has always looked down on the Yuzong lineage because they felt that the Yuzong people's fighting power was too low. Elder Zhu, why are you covered in wounds? Could it be that you encountered some powerful monster? The leading young man asked with a cold expression. I am being chased by a monk from the Xinqiao realm. Please help me for the sake of my fellow disciples. Elder Zhu blushed at first, then clasped his hands into his fists, showing an extremely candid attitude. He is just a deacon and elder of Yuzong. In the eyes of these talented disciples of the demon sect, they have no weight at all. These talented disciples of the demon sect have always gone their own way, being lawless and arrogant. If Yuzong's disciples dare to offend them, they will kill them on the spot without mercy. But at this moment, Elder Zhu had no other choice. The power of the magic talisman has been exhausted, and the terrifying young man behind is still chasing after him. If the demon sect disciples in front of him didn't help, he really wouldn't be able to escape the pursuit of that young man. Strange, in the Kamikaze dynasty, does anyone still dare to take action against our Demon Control Sect members? The leading young man touched his chin with a cruel smile on his lips. What level is the other party in? How many levels higher than you? The leading young man asked. This. Elder Zhu hesitated all of a sudden. Elder Zhu, you Moji. Do you really want our brothers and sisters to help you, but you don't even dare to reveal some real information? The leading young man's eyes widened, and he pointed his sword sharply at Elder Zhu's chest. His expression was fierce flames filled the sky, and his whole body was filled with murderous intent. It seems that this Elder Zhu of the Imperial Sect is not a fellow sect at all. Elder Zhu trembled. In an instant, a cold sweat broke out all over his body. In the history of the Demon Yu sect, the Demon Sect's lineage often killed the Yuzong's lineage. Yes, he is a young monk at the 1st level of Xinqiao realm. Elder Zhu stammered. Ha. Are you on the 1st level of Xinqiao realm? Elder Zhu, your Imperial Sect is really too embarrassing. The young man laughed, raised the sword in his hand, and slapped Elder Zhu on the face with the sword blade, making a crackling sound. The other young people from the demon sect nearby also started laughing. The people of Yuzong were so weak that they were killed by a young man at the 1st level of Xinqiao realm and turned into a bereaved dog. It's really funny. While everyone was laughing, an illusory dragon shadow suddenly shot from a distance and landed on the opposite side of the crowd. The dragon shadow dissipated and turned into a handsome boy of 14 or 15 years old. "Oh, is it really the first level of Xinqiao realm?" That the leading young man glanced at Lord Grimm and said disdainfully, with an extremely arrogant look on his face. Elder Zhu looked at Lord Grimm with an extremely frightened look in his eyes. This young man is really terrifying, his breath is long and his physique is amazing. He has been chasing himself at high speed, but now he has landed on the ground and he can't even breathe. Seeing Elder Zhu's cowering expression, the young man at the head was furious, and a hint of ferocity suddenly flashed in his eyes. He raised the sword in his hand and slapped Elder Zhu on the face. Snapped. This sword was so powerful that it sent Elder Zhu flying away. When Elder Zhu got up, a blood mark appeared on the left side of his face. "You're such a useless piece of trash, you really embarrass our demon control sect," that the young man said coldly. Elder Zhu did not dare to talk back, lowered his head and said sarcastically, "Please help me." "Don't worry, a first-level Xinqiao realm can be killed with just one move." That he turned around and stared at Lord Grimm, his eyes filled with blood, and bloodthirsty killing intent surged out of his body. Lord Grimm looked at the group of young men in black robes and frowned when he saw that all of them were arrogant and ferocious. The robes worn by these people are very similar to those of Elder Zhu, and they should all be members of the Demon Control Sect. "You are all from the Demon Control Sect, right? It's just in time. Even if you are all in the Xinqiao realm, then you can all come together." Jun Maxiao shook the Hunyuan Wuji sword in his hand, looked at the young men in black robes casually, and said with a smile, "Recently, he has been refining the essence and blood of the ancestral dragon in the carriage. After refining is completed, although his cultivation level has not changed, the concentration of ancestral dragon essence and blood in his body has increased. The concentration only increased a little, but it also greatly increased his combat power. Therefore, today Lord Grimm is going to practice with these disciples of the Demon Control Sect. Go together." Ha ha. The young man at the head was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed wantonly. Everyone in the world said that the people of the Demon Sect were crazy and arrogant, but they never expected that this little guy with no hair in front of him would be even more arrogant than them. A young man in black robe next to him smiled and shouted, "Boy, we don't kill unknown people. Which sect are you from?" "Shenlong Sect." Lord Grimm looked proud, shook the sword in his hand, and a huge phantom of the divine dragon appeared behind him. "Shenlong Sect? Never heard of it. What kind of ninth-rate sect is this?" The disciples trained by small sects who cannot stand on the stage are also such rubbish. "Kill him." Several young men in black robes from the Demon Control Sect suddenly drew their swords, filled with murderous intent, and controlled the sword light to kill them. Call. After exhaling, Elder Zhu wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. These talented disciples of the Demon Sect were finally angered. As long as they took action, his life would be safe. Chapter 72 The Art of Creation Demon God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Somewhere high in the sky in Yunmeng Mountain, a black carriage floated quietly in the void. Yi Yan looked at the scene in the distance, his eyes twitched slightly, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. 100,000 years later, he saw the colorful dragon and carp again. Only, this five-color dragon and carp are not that five-color dragon and carp, but no matter what. Seeing the colorful dragons and carps at this time somewhat triggered some memories of his past. Just when Yi Yun was remembering, Lord Grimm has already fought with the talented disciples of the Demon Control Sect. The battle was very fierce. After a few rounds, Lord Grimm was suppressed by these 8 talented disciples from the Demon Control Sect. This shocked him greatly. It seems that the talented disciples of the major sects have indeed outstanding personal combat abilities, far exceeding those of the Guyu dynasty. However, the ones who were more shocked than Lord Grimm were the talented disciples of the Demon Control Sect. They never dreamed that most of their 8 masters of the Divine Bridge realm, whose cultivation levels were higher than the young man in front of them, would not be able to kill with one strike. This has never happened before. It is impossible for any of the Tianjiao disciples in the 3 major sects to have such a strong combat power. One-on-one is fine, but 8 of them beat one person, and 6 of them were far better than that young man. The result was that the boy was suppressed but not killed. How can this young man be so strong? Elder Zhu, who was watching the battle from a distance, stared at the fierce battle in front of him, his heart pounding. It is really rare for one person to dominate 8 people, and to be able to persist for such a long time when his cultivation is at a disadvantage. Elder Zhu was injured and did not participate in the battle. He looked at Lord Grimm, touched his chin, and began to think deeply. What kind of sect is this Shenlong Sect? Why have I never heard of it during the Kamikaze dynasty? Even among the more powerful dynasties around him, he had never heard of this sect. After thinking about it, Elder Zhu became even more confused. Wow! Wow! In the lake behind him, there were constant sounds of water breaking. A huge multicolored dragon carp jumped out of the water and continuously hit a golden protective shield. Elder Zhu turned around, and when he saw the colorful dragon carp, his eyes suddenly showed a fiery gaze. This colorful dragon carp has reached the 6th level of the Divine Bridge realm. He was actually higher in cultivation than everyone present. However, due to the formation, the colorful dragon carp was tightly trapped and could not escape for a while. Elder Zhu is very clear about the name of the colorful dragon and carp. Colorful dragons and carps are of great benefit to practitioners. The meat of the colorful dragon carp has a magical effect on strengthening the soul and body. The blood of dragon and carp is also the main material for refining a healing medicine. Once the demon elixir of the 5-color dragon and carp in the Xinxiao realm is refined into the barrier-breaking elixir, it can play a huge assisting role at the critical moment for the monks in the Xinxiao realm to break through to the Nirvana realm. It can be said that this colorful dragon carp, which contains the blood of ancient dragons, is full of treasures. Well. Elder Zhu sighed again and his eyes dimmed. The colorful dragon and carp are an opportunity for these talented disciples of the demon sect, so he shouldn't think about it. He owns a Yuanyang stone mine. If he can obtain the Chang family's Yuanyang hegemonic body skill, he can directly cultivate to the realm of destiny. Compared to this colorful dragon and carp, the opportunity is much better. Unfortunately, he was abruptly interrupted by the young man in front of him. Elder Zhu's eyes showed hatred. After resting for a while, he felt better. He gritted his teeth and joined the battle with his sword. For a moment, Lord Grimm was 1 against 9, and the pressure increased greatly. In the distance in the void, Su Wani squinted her eyes slightly and looked at the fierce battle in the distance. She was quite worried about her junior brother Jun Mo Xiaoyu. The demon control sect is at the level of a large sect, and these young people in the Xinxiao realm have outstanding talents and extraordinary combat prowess. The 9 people worked together to besiege, and the attacks were like a tidal wave that destroyed the world, forcing the junior brother to retreat continuously. If it weren't for the Divine Dragon's 9 transformations technique, my junior brother would be in danger. In the carriage, Yi Yun's face was calm and he quietly watched the battle ahead. Luoli, you go too. At this time, a voice resounded in a certain space. Immediately afterwards, a ray of light rose into the sky and hit the battle scene on the top of the mountain below. Luoli was born out of nowhere. From mid-air, she drew her sword and slashed through a fierce rain of swords. Those disciples of the demon control sect were suddenly attacked, and they quickly raised their swords to resist, and were in a panic for a while. Lord Grimm seized the opportunity and immediately launched a wave of strong attacks, slightly restoring the situation. Junior brother, our ancestor asked me to help you. Luoli fell from mid-air and stood beside Lord Grimm. Senior sister, these disciples from big sects all have very tough ideas, so you should be more careful. Lord Grimm looked at the 9 figures of the opponent and said solemnly. Good. Luoli nodded solemnly. The young man named the leader of the demon control sect suddenly showed a look of shock when he saw a beautiful girl wearing a bright yellow robe falling from the sky. The girl's speed was so fast that they didn't even react before she reached the front. Listening to the conversation between this girl and this boy, it seems that they are fellow seniors. This is interesting. Leave no chickens or dogs alive, kill them all. The leading young man shouted angrily. His eyes were suddenly blood red, and his body was burning with raging blood, like a demon king coming out of hell. Kill! The disciples from the demon control sect next to them roared loudly. Their bodies were actually burning with blood, their eyes were red, and their muscles were tense. Demonized? Elder Zhu, who was standing aside, couldn't help but feel frightened. The reason why the disciples of the demon sect are powerful is because they have a magic technique that creates demons. Once this technique is used, the whole body will burn with raging blood, and the whole person's combat power will be doubled. They are murderous and will never kill the opponent without killing them. Give up, and the disciples of the demon sect don't dare to use this magic technique to create demons easily. After all, this kind of technique consumes energy and blood extremely seriously, but I didn't expect it. Suddenly, another girl from the first level of Xinxiao realm appeared. Under the increased pressure, these talented disciples of the demon sect were asked to use the demon creation art. It seems that they also felt that the boy was troublesome in the previous confrontation, and this girl and this young man came from the same sect and were both at the first level of Xinxiao realm, so their combat prowess should not be inferior. If it were a normal battle, I don't know how long it would take. There is a colorful dragon carp trapped in the formation next to it. If they fight for too long, if the colorful dragon carp escapes from the trap, all their previous hard work will be in vain. Seeing the Tianjiao disciple of the demon control sect performing the demon creation art, Yi Yun sat in the carriage, his face still extremely calm. He had already seen all this, therefore, let Luo Li and Lord Grimm fight together in advance. If two people can survive this battle, it will be of great benefit to their future cultivation. The big black cat yawned. TSK, these little devil cubs, once they become demons, they probably won't even recognize their father, right? That the big black horse grinned, bared his big white teeth, and said with a smile, "Kitten, how about you go over there and be a father? Teach these little cubs how to behave." That the big black cat covered his head and said bitterly, "Uncle Ma, please spare me the kitten. I am a bachelor cat who has been single for thousands of years and has no experience in being a father." "Huh." That the big black horse laughed loudly. Sitting in the carriage, Yi Yun couldn't help but burst into laughter when he heard this. Chapter 73, Anti-Dragon Technique, 5 times the combat power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The time between jokes, the young men in black robes from the demon control sect were already fighting with Jun Ma Xiao and Luo Li. This battle was earth-shattering from the beginning, and the sun and the moon dimmed. Those talented disciples after being transformed into demons were indeed extremely powerful in battle, and they defeated Lord Grimm and Luo Li steadily. Fortunately, the two people cooperated tacitly and supported each other, so they were not injured. At this moment, Elder Zhu stood behind and did not take action. Those talented disciples who were transformed into demons disowned their relatives. If he went up rashly, he would probably be accidentally injured, or maybe just cut down with a sword. It would be an unjust death for him to die. Yi Yun observed silently for a while and sighed softly. After these talented disciples of the demon control sect were transformed into demons, their strength doubled, and they fought with a completely lifeless style. If they continued to fight, Luo Li and Jun Ma Xiao would not only face defeat, but also endanger their lives. It seems it's time to teach them something new. Yi Yun thought silently. He gently tapped his hand, and 2 light spots broke through the space and landed on the heads of Luo Li and Jun Ma Xiao. In an instant, the inheritance of a supreme skill immediately appeared in the minds of 2 people. They used the magic of creating demons. After being transformed into demons, their combat power doubled. But our Shenlong Sect is an eternal level sect, so why don't we have suppressive skills? That in the hearts of Lord Grimm and Luo Li, the ancestor's voice suddenly sounded faintly. This is the first level of the anti-dragon technique. Once you use it, your own energy and blood will be burned, and your combat effectiveness will increase 5-fold. Yi Yun continued, 5 times increase. This is too terrible. Lord Grimm and Luo Li were surprised and happy at this moment. They quickly digested the memory of the technique in their minds. This dragon-defying technique was directly taught to them by their ancestors, and using a special magical power, the 2 of them understood it instantly. Boom. 2 rumbling sounds suddenly came out from the 2 people's bodies, as if at this moment, a divine dragon awakened inside their bodies. Ouch! Jun Ma Xiao and Luo Li looked up to the sky and laughed, making dragon roars. At this moment, the 2 of them performed the dragon reverse art and began to burn the strong energy and blood in their bodies. Originally from the bloodline of the ancestral dragon, his chi and blood were unparalleled. The increase in combat power brought about by the violent burning of chi and blood was even more terrifying. Although the cultivation level of the 2 people has not increased, the aura exuding from their bodies has become more terrifying. Elder Zhu, who had been watching the battle from afar, his eyes widened when he saw this scene. unbelievable. At this moment, the young man and girl's bodies were surrounded by chi and blood like smoke, flowing in a torrent and majestic. And in this chi and blood, there seemed to be the shadow of a divine dragon swimming. The aura of the two people was even stronger, and even if he was hiding far away, he felt tremendous pressure. Elder Zhu knew something was wrong. He turned around sharply, turned around and ran away. At this time, he no longer cares about the friendship between his fellow disciples. Anyway, those lunatics from the demon sect helped him resist the pair of boys and girls, so he had to seize the time to escape. First, Elder Zhu just took action. Suddenly, he saw a big black cat appearing on the opposite side, and he was startled. This big cat appeared so suddenly. Where did it come from? He quickly felt the cultivation of this big black cat. The next moment, his eyes almost fell down. He couldn't feel it. That meant that the cultivation of this big black cat far exceeded him. Stop running. The big black cat raised its black paw and patted it down gently. Elder Zhu felt his eyes go dark and fell to the ground instantly. The big black cat pounced on him, pawed again, and after confirming that Elder Zhu was completely dead, he returned. Kitty cat, your killing method is so unlucky. The big black horse glared at it angrily, then opened his mouth, and a bolt of lightning suddenly shot over and landed on the corpse. Immediately, Elder Zhu turned into a wisp of blue smoke and disappeared. The big black cat stuck out its tongue. Uncle Ma, I don't have the skills you have. The big black cat said coquettishly. The big black horse pouted and ignored it. Instead, he continued to focus on the fierce battle ahead. After performing the dragon-defying art, Luo Li and Jun Maxiao reversed the declining situation and launched a crazy counterattack. The demonized disciples of the demon sect on the opposite side were also fighting like mad at this moment, roaring like wild beasts and attacking the two people desperately, even though Luo Li cut the chest of a demon sect disciple with his sword. That disciple still stabbed her with his sword without risking his life. It's completely a life-for-life style of play. Luo Li had no choice but to use the Divine Dragon's 9 transformations technique and turned into a phantom of the Divine Dragon and disappeared. Now these talented disciples of the demon sect can only rely on this desperate fighting style to maintain a slight advantage. But this advantage is constantly being lost, after all, under the sharp attacks of the powerful Luo Li and Lord Grimm. People were constantly being injured, and the opponent's overall combat effectiveness was rapidly losing. About 2 sticks of incense passed, TSK. As 2 shocking sword lights fell, all the disciples of the demon sect fell into a pool of blood. Taking a gentle breath, Lord Grimm shook off the blood on his sword, looked at Luo Li and said, "Senior sister, I really didn't expect that our Divine Dragon Sect's anti-dragon art would be so powerful." Yes, I didn't expect that the combat effectiveness brought by burning chi and blood would be directly increased 5 times. Luo Li laughed. Lord Grimm walked over, struck each of them with another blow, then put away all the storage rings on their bodies, and gave half of them to Luo Li. "Senior sister, our ancestors said that this is only the first level of the dragon-defying art. Maybe we will have the opportunity to master the 2nd and 3rd levels in the future, and our combat effectiveness will continue to improve." Lord Grimm said proudly. Luo Li glared at him angrily, then she pointed at Jun Mo Zhao's body and said, "This technique of burning chi and blood cannot be used easily. Although our bodies are strong, we cannot withstand this kind of consumption." Lord Grimm lowered his head in disbelief. Luo Li is right. This kind of technique has not been given to you before because it is afraid of affecting your foundation. The black carriage suddenly appeared, and Yi Yun's voice sounded faintly. "Ancestor, I understand." Lord Grimm lowered his head, sincerely admitting his mistake. Seeing that Lord Grimm had a good attitude towards admitting his mistake, Yi Yun nodded. Su Wani jumped down from the carriage, took out a handkerchief, and gently helped Luo Li wipe the blood on her face. "Little junior sister, are you okay? You have been burning your blood for so long, so you need to have a good rest," Amelia Su said with concern. "Well, senior sister, I really need to take a good rest." Luo Li also felt a little weak, thinking of her ancestors' instructions just now. Luo Li felt awe in her heart. It seemed that this technique could only be used at critical times. If used frequently, it will definitely be detrimental to practice. "Pony, go and break the formation in the lake." Yi Yun suddenly spoke. The big black horse opened his mouth suddenly and shot out a blue electric light, which landed on the golden light shield. With a loud rumbling sound, the golden light shield was broken. Wow! A huge colorful figure broke out of the water and rushed towards everyone. Careful! Jun Maxiao's expression changed, and he raised his sword to block Su Wanni's body. Chapter 74 Colorful Dragons and Carps, Robbing the Ancestors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Plop! That huge colorful figure suddenly landed in front of the big black horse, lying on the ground and mouthing human words. Thank you, my benefactor, for the rescue. Don't thank me, this is the master's order. The big black horse shook his head quickly, bared his big white teeth and said. Is this a carp? Everyone took a closer look and found that what was lying on the ground turned out to be a colorful carp that was 7 to 8 feet long. This big carp is golden all over, and its whole body is covered with glittering and colorful light. 2 golden dragon whiskers grow out of its mouth, 1 or 2 feet long, shining with a dazzling luster. This is actually a big carp from the 6th level of the Divine Bridge realm. Lord Grimm's eyes widened, his childish face filled with an expression of disbelief. Who is the master? This huge multicolored dragon carp was rolling on the ground, its big eyes constantly looking around at Luoli, Lord Grimm and Su Wanni, these 3 humans. There should also be divine dragon blood in the body, giving it a particularly close feeling, but he didn't dare to get too close, because the blood of the 3 dragons is nobler than it gives it a feeling of surrender. Don't look at me, my ancestor is in the carriage. Seeing Big Fish staring closely at him, Lord Grimm waved his hands quickly, with a rather embarrassed look on his face. The fish, which is 7 to 8 feet long, is twisting and turning on the land. This style of painting is still very strange. If you are swimming in the water, it will not be so abrupt. Carriage. When the colorful dragon carp heard Lord Grimm's words, he turned around and looked at the carriage. He had scanned this black carriage with his spiritual consciousness before and found no one inside. It was dubious, and after thinking for a few seconds, it twisted around and crawled towards the carriage. The big black cat, who has always been a coquettish person, finally couldn't help it anymore. Oh, I said, Big Fish, you should be able to change your shape, so why not quickly turn into a human? This land is almost bald because of you. Big Fish, change your form quickly. Otherwise, the Earth Master will have no hair on his head. The big black horse baldly purred, and it was considered to be in sync with the big black cat god. What 2 living treasures! Yi Yun smiled slightly when he saw this. He lifted the curtain and walked out of the car. This. The colorful dragon and carp suddenly saw Yi Yun, who was dressed in white and looked like a direct immortal. They were shocked and lost control of their minds like a volcano erupting. At this moment, it felt the supreme oppression of its bloodline, like, the person facing it was not a person, but a real dragon. It's not an ordinary dragon, but one of the most powerful super dragons in ancient times. The colorful dragon and carp lineage belongs to the collateral lineage of the divine dragon. The divine dragon bloodline contained in the body is extremely thin, and there are not many inherited memories. Therefore, it really cannot connect Yi Yun and Zulong to each other. We can only guess that under the Dao Zulong, there are 10 super dragons. Aha! He twisted around suddenly, a ray of light flashed, and he suddenly transformed into a young man, wearing a colorful dragon robe. He has delicate features and extraordinary temperament. With a plop, the young man knelt on the ground, his expression extremely excited, and kowtowed repeatedly. I have met our ancestors. Ancestor? Jun Maxiao, Luo Li and others looked at each other. Is this Big Fish dizzy? How dare you rob the ancestor of their Shenlong Sect? It's too much. The 3 of them were all angry, and the looks they looked at the colorful dragon and carp became unfriendly. Big Fish, don't mistake your ancestors. The big black cat also stood up suddenly, stared at the boy and said angrily, Master, that is a god. And this young man is just a colorful dragon and carp, with only the thin bloodline of the ancient colorful dragon. With such meager qualifications, you want to recognize this god as your ancestor. How can there be such a good thing in the world? The big black cat has always considered himself shameless, and feels that his face is far less thick-skinned than the colorful dragon and carp. If not, it would no longer hug Uncle Ma's thick legs, but should hug his thighs. But how dare it? The thighs of a god are not something you can hug just because you want to, it doesn't have the qualifications either. You can't just identify your ancestors casually. I am a human monk, and you are a demon clan. Yi Yun smiled faintly, waved his sleeves, and a burst of magic power immediately lifted the young man on the ground. He has the blood of the ancestral dragon. The concentration of the ancestral dragon's bloodline has reached over 99%, which is infinitely close to the body of the ancestral dragon. Any dragon, or life with dragon bloodline, will have strong bloodline suppression when they see him. Under this kind of bloodline suppression, there is no way to resist at all. In ancient times, when the ancestral dragon appeared, it suppressed the world forever and commanded the world. No one in the Scale Armor clan dared to disobey. You are the ancestor, I feel you can't be wrong. The young man stood on the ground, his face was miserable, and he kept wiping tears with his sleeves. He felt very aggrieved at the moment. He also has a trace of the blood of the colorful divine dragon in his body, and the bloodline induction between divine dragons is absolutely unmistakable. He who has the blood of a colorful dragon makes him feel surrendered. Apart from the legendary 10 dragons, the young man can't imagine anything else. In his heart, the old man in white in front of him may be one of the 10 divine dragons, but in the ancient war, all 10 super dragons fell. Therefore, he did not know the identity of the man in white in front of him. Yi Yun looked at the young man and asked with a smile, there shouldn't be many colorful dragons and carp in Canglan continent nowadays, right? After hearing this, the young man felt even more sad, and his tears flowed faster. Master. The young man also learned the name of the big black cat, called Yi Yun, and cried, the number of colorful dragons and carps in our lineage has dropped from tens of thousands to only 20 or 30. Do you still have clan members? Yi Yun frowned and asked lightly. Yes, sir. The young man continued to cry, we are all living under the water of the Canglan River now. The incomplete formation left by an ancient sect under the water can give us shelter. Hearing this, Yi Yun nodded. He originally thought that this was a lone colorful dragon carp, but he did not expect that the other party had another group in the water of the Canglan River. Canglan River is not far from here, about 20,000 to 30,000 miles. Yi Yun looked at the lake in the distance and said calmly, there is a colorful golden lotus at the bottom of the lake. Could it be that someone from your colorful dragon and carp clan was injured? The young man was slightly startled. However, he came to his senses in an instant. This godlike gentleman in white has really great vision. It was obvious at a glance that the 7-colored golden lotus was not what he lacked. Thinking of this, the young man hurriedly said, Master, the patriarch of my family has been seriously injured for many years, and has been lacking the holy medicine to heal his wounds. I have been searching for 100 years before I found a colorful golden lotus at the bottom of the lake in Yunmeng Mountain. Unexpectedly, it was not mature yet. I met these guys from the Demon Control Sect. Speaking of which, the young man looked at the corpses lying on the ground, with strong hatred in his eyes. Chapter 75 Sneaking into the Canglan River, strange things first appeared. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Yun smiled softly. He walked down from the carriage and came to the edge of the lake. He stood with his hands behind his hands and looked at the bottom of the lake quietly. There is a colorful golden lotus growing in the deepest part of the lake bottom, about 3 feet tall, emitting astonishing spiritual energy fluctuations, but it's a pity, this colorful golden lotus will take several years to mature. Master. The young man followed and stood behind Yi Yun. He was a little cowardly and did not dare to speak. Yi Yun pointed lightly with his hand. The water in the lake rolled back and everything was caught in the air. At this moment, it was as if the entire time and space had been reversed. This shocked everyone. Yi Yun took out a small bottle and poured out a drop of light green water. He flicked it lightly, and the water drops fell on the colorful golden lotus. Then the 7-color golden lotus grew rapidly, and a 7-color lotus flower bloomed. With a fragrant fragrance, everyone felt as if their souls had been baptized, and they were extremely comfortable. Yi Yun stretched out his hand again, and this colorful golden lotus immediately flew into his palm. Put it away, this colorful golden lotus is mature. Yi Yun smiled slightly and gave this colorful golden lotus to the boy next to him. The young man was stunned for a moment. This man in white is too powerful. He used the mysterious green water droplets to bring the colorful golden lotus to maturity. What a shock. Yi Yun looked into the distance with his hands behind his back. and seemed to see something. He turned around, faced the young man, and chuckled softly. "Lead the way and go to Canglan River to see your clan leader." "Okay, sir," that the young man nodded hurriedly. The 3 disciples of the Shenlong Sect all returned to the space inside the carriage this time. But sitting on the front of the carriage was the colorful dragon and carp boy who was responsible for guiding the way. Yi Yun sat in the carriage, looking at the scene in the distance. I felt filled with emotion. The line of colorful dragons and carps at the bottom of the Canglan River actually originated from the Dragon Lake of the Shenlong Sect. They are the descendants of some colorful dragons and carp in Long Lake. What a coincidence! Under Yi Yun's instructions, the big dark horse developed at terrifying speed, a journey of 20 to 30,000 miles. It only took half a cup of tea to get there. The Canglan River is the largest river in the Kamikaze dynasty. The river is hundreds of miles wide and bottomless. The ruins of the ancient underwater sect where the colorful dragon and carp clan lived were located in the deepest part of a certain section of the Canglan River. "Master, it's right here," that the young man said with a smile. He pointed his finger at the rushing water. Yi Yun smiled and glanced towards the bottom of the water. After glancing at the ruins of the ancient sect and raising his eyebrows, Yi Yun smiled and said, "Then go down. Your family leader is not in a good condition right now. Give him the colorful golden lotus as soon as possible." That the big black horse pulled the carriage and plunged into the Canglan River. There is a light shield around the carriage, and not a drop of water can get in. The young man also admired this big dark horse very much. A breath of work. The carriage came to the bottom of the water. The ruins of an ancient sect appeared in front of you. The big black horse glanced at it and just grunted without saying anything. On the contrary, the big black cat was quite alert and moved its nose as if it smelled something. "Uncle Ma, this place seems a bit weird." The big black cat swayed from side to side and said with wide eyes, "Stop talking nonsense, just watch your mouth." The big black horse scolded it angrily. The conversation between a horse and a cat fell into the young man's ears, but he was a little frightened. They have lived in this ancient ruins for decades, and supernatural things often happen. For example, you would often see ancient monks fighting outside in the middle of the night, or you would see some monks operating in the sect. Sometimes when practicing in a secret room, a ghostly figure will suddenly appear and pass by. However, the patriarch once told everyone that these are the remaining consciousnesses of the monks in ancient times, attached to the ruins. At night, some illusory images appear, no fuss required. The clansmen of the colorful dragons and carps also tried to attack with magical powers, but it had no effect, as if they were hitting the air. Later, it took a long time. Everyone is not surprised. Who? That watching a black carriage suddenly fall from the sky, a huge colorful dragon carp immediately swam out and blocked the way. "Brother, it's me," that the young man quickly stood up from the carriage and waved to the colorful dragon carp. "Oh, it turns out to be sixth brother. Why did you bring a carriage back?" That the colorful dragon carp suddenly transformed into a young man. When they are on alert underwater, they usually transform into their true form so that they can move freely in the water. This is also their most powerful attack state. "Clan leader, how are you now?" "I found the colorful golden lotus." The young man raised the colorful golden lotus in his hand and said. The young man sighed, opened a corner of the formation on the ruins, and urged, "The patriarch is getting more and more serious. Come in quickly." The young man was startled and quickly got out of the carriage and quickly flew inside. The big black horse followed closely behind. As it ran, it glanced around, its nose constantly twitching, and its pair of copper bell-like eyes dancing with tiny blue lightnings at this moment. "Uncle Ma, what did you see?" "Unfortunately, my cultivation is too weak and I still can't see it." The big black cat sighed in his heart. He suddenly thought of those beasts in the master's warehouse, and couldn't help but feel extremely envious. As if being stimulated, the big black cat closed its eyes and began to comprehend the mysterious energy that the master had injected into its body. After passing through the outermost ruins, there are still some well-preserved halls inside. Yi Yun walked out of the carriage. He also wanted to take a look at the leader of the colorful dragon and carp. The young man led the way, and Yi Yun followed behind. Sometimes he would look around, with a faint smile flashing in his eyes. This ancient sect relic is quite interesting. After entering a secret room, Yi Yun soon saw the dying leader of the colorful dragon and carp lying on the ground. At this moment, it revealed its true body as a colorful dragon and carp, which was more than 10 feet long. The scales on its body had lost their luster and were gray in color. Clan leader, I have found the colorful golden lotus. Seeing that the clan leader's injury was getting more serious, the young man rushed over and knelt on the ground, raised the colorful golden lotus in his hand, and put it to the clan leader's mouth. The colorful golden lotus exuded a strange fragrance, which made the patriarch open his eyes from his dying state. He took a sip of the aroma of the colorful golden lotus and felt a little refreshed. Suddenly he raised his eyes and saw the young man in white standing a few meters away. Seeing the familiar face of the young man in white, the leader of the colorful dragon and carp clan blinked his eyes quickly and shouted to the young man, "Shaoyuzi, go next door and take out the rectangular red wooden box." The boy didn't know why, but he quickly ran to the next door and brought back a red wooden box. "Open it quickly," the old patriarch said tremblingly. At this moment, it didn't know where the strength came from. As soon as its body rolled, it turned into an old man. The young man opened the wooden box and saw an ancient painting inside. He took one look, and his eyes suddenly popped out. The person in this ancient painting actually looks exactly like the old man in white next to him. Chapter 76 Tearing the Void, Happy Enmity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This painting is extremely ancient and full of vicissitudes of life, as if it has been soaked in the long river of time for tens of thousands of years. In the painting, walking alone in 1,000 mountains, a young man in white stands with his hands behind his back. He has deep features, eyes like stars, and an outstanding temperament. Like an immortal, it flowed faintly from the yellowed ancient paper. This young man in white clothes, with fluttering robes, stands on the top of the mountain, like a supreme divine king, commanding the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Once you take a look at it, you will never forget his peerless grace. I saw that the young man in white in the ancient painting was exactly like the old man in white in front of me, as if they were carved from the same mold, both in appearance and expression. The young man was confused at the time, holding the ancient painting in both hands. His body couldn't help but tremble. The old patriarch looked at the ancient painting, and tears suddenly burst out from his eyes. He never dreamed of it. 100,000 years. It's been 100,000 years. The most powerful man in Canglan continent, the leader of the eternal level divine dragon sect, is still alive. He knelt down on the ground with a plop and kept kowtowing. While shedding tears, he cried out, "The 54th generation of Longhu, Long Qing is here to meet the sect leader." That the young man was stunned when he saw the old patriarch kneeling down. He also kneeled on the ground subconsciously. Seeing the old man kneeling at his feet, Yi Yun smiled faintly. He had long wanted to see this colorful dragon and carp lineage, so on the way, Yi Yun suppressed the bloodline aura in his body. After entering the Canglan River, no one could detect the aura of his ancestral dragon bloodline. "Get up!" Yi Yun's face was calm, and with a wave of his sleeve, a burst of magic power swept out, immediately lifting the old man and the young man up. Longhu's colorful dragon and carp lineage has been passed down to the 54th generation. "This is not easy for you," Yi Yun said softly. "Yes, sect master." The old patriarch was still in tears, and it was difficult to describe his excitement at this moment. The young man in white in front of him was Yi Yun, the leader of the Shenlong Sect 100,000 years ago. The youngest eternal realm powerhouse on the Canglan continent has suppressed an era. Even the older generation of eternal realm monks cannot raise their heads in front of him. The origin ancestor of their lineage was Longhu from the Shenlong Sect. Back then, the sect leader put 100 colorful dragon carps into the dragon lake. Yi Yun looked at the old man, raised his eyebrows, and smiled calmly. "I am no longer the sect leader of the Shenlong Sect. Now the sect leader is someone else." The old man looked stunned. Over the years, he has been wandering around the Canglan continent with his people, but he has never heard any news about the Shenlong Sect. Too much time has passed. 100,000 years later, the Shenlong Sect has long since disappeared in the long river of history. "Just call me master from now on." Yi Yun looked at Long Qing and said lightly, "Okay, sir." Long Qing nodded quickly and wiped away the tears from his eyes. Yi Yun glanced at Long Qing, frowned slightly, and asked quietly, "Your body has been cut into several sections by someone long ago, and now it is forcibly kept intact. Who is so cruel, that I heard what the master said. The young man holding the ancient painting next to him was stunned. It turns out that the old patriarch's injury was so serious that his body had been chopped open long ago. It was hard for him to imagine how difficult it was for his body to be torn apart and maintained with magic power for so many years. Long Qing's eyes turned red, and he said with hatred, "In the past, we moved from the Litian dynasty to the Kamikaze dynasty for refuge, and met a strong man from the Chechen sword sect. His strength was a level higher than mine, and his swordsmanship was superb. I was no match for him. It turns out to be the Chechen sword sect." Yi Yun nodded silently. The Long Qing in front of him was also a strong man at the first level of nirvana before his cultivation level deteriorated. Now he has degraded to the peak of the 10th level of Shinxiao realm. As for the second level of nirvana realm, for Chechen sword sect, they are at least the level of deputy sect leader or supreme elder, in the Guyue dynasty. A Shinxiao realm elder from the Chechen sword sect was killed by Luo Li and Jun Maxiao because he was meddling in his own business. Silver Moon City also met an elder from the Chechen sword sect, in the Canglan River. The descendants of the colorful dragons and carps he once raised are also full of scars from the Chechen sword sect's oppression. This made Yi Yun feel a hint of anger in his heart. When the true god is angry, blood will be splashed every step of the way. Yi Yun glanced at Long Qing and his pupils shrank slightly. At this moment, Long Qing felt that his whole mind was turned upside down by an unimaginable force, and then returned to normal in an instant. He was suddenly shocked. The next moment, Long Qing was surprised to see a layer of mysterious white light rising from the master's arm. This white light was filled with indescribable divine brilliance. The front half of Yi Yun's arm reached into the void. This. Long Qing stared at all this with wide eyes, and his whole body was as shocked as a statue. Master, is he already a god? An astonishing possibility suddenly popped into Long Qing's heart. 100,000 years ago, the master was already the strongest person in the eternal realm. 100,000 years later, the master is still living in this world, immortal, and must have entered the realm of God. True God. When he thought of this, Long Qing's body couldn't stop trembling. After the decline of the Shenlong Sect, Longhu was also destroyed in a sect war. A few dragon carps escaped by chance, and different branches were formed over tens of thousands of years. In various places in Sangnan continent, he lived a miserable life of being yelled at and beaten by everyone. Many monks want to catch colorful dragons and carps, although their lineage had a period of glory tens of thousands of years ago. The population once multiplied to tens of thousands, a breath of effort. Yi Yun retracted his arm, grabbed someone in his hand and threw it to the ground. This is a middle-aged man with a Chinese character face, gray temples, sword-shaped eyebrows, and starry eyes, and he looks quite heroic. He got up from the ground and looked around with a look of shock on his face. Originally, he was practicing in the back mountain of Chechen sword sect, but suddenly he was caught by a powerful force, and then he appeared here. Gong Sunli, you are such an old man, I never thought you would be here today. Long Qing looked at the shocked Gong Sunli, and suddenly a happy smile appeared on his face. The master is really awesome. This place was at least 100,000 miles away from the Chechen sword sect. With a casual grab, he broke through the void and captured Gong Sunli. Long Qing, is that you? After Gong Sunli saw Long Qing, his expression changed drastically and he was about to take action immediately. The people of Chechen sword sect are really arrogant. How dare they take action when they get here? An indifferent voice sounded, but the next second, Gong Sunli was horrified to find that his cultivation was imprisoned, and the sword in his hand also fell to the ground. Gong Sunli turned his head and saw the young man in white. His pupils widened suddenly. This moment, he seemed to see a supreme god, shining brightly all over his body, illuminating the world, making him unable to resist at all. Long Qing, do it. Yi Yun stood with his hands behind his hands and said calmly, seeing the enemy who split him into several pieces in the past. Long Qing was filled with hatred. If it weren't for the amazing body of the colorful dragon carp and its strong recovery power, he might not be alive today. The pain accumulated in his heart for so many years made Long Qing's eyes red instantly. He drew a sword, strode over, and launched a violent attack on Gong Sunli. Gong Sunli had no power to resist. Amidst howls, Gong Sunli was torn into pieces and died tragically on the spot. Thank you, sir. After killing Gong Sunli, Long Qing burst into tears, threw away the sword in his hand, and knelt at Yi Yun's feet again. Get up. Take the 7-colored golden lotus as soon as possible, and heal the broken body in time. Yi Yun smiled calmly, and a burst of magic power swept out, helping Long Qing up. The boy next to him was dumbfounded at this moment. What kind of cultivation level does the master have? As soon as he stretched out his hand, he broke through the void and grabbed a Nirvana realm expert from 100,000 miles away. If you haven't seen it with your own eyes, the young man couldn't believe that there was such a powerful person in this world. Chapter 77: The Shocking Changes in Ancient Ruins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Long Qing took the colorful golden lotus, the old injuries in his body quickly improved, and a blush slowly rose on his face. Yi Yun observed silently for a moment. He found that this colorful golden lotus only cured half of Long Qing's injuries. After all, it took too long. Thinking of this, Yi Yun took out a small bottle. A drop of emerald green mysterious liquid flew towards Long Qing. In an instant, the entire secret room was suddenly filled with vigorous vitality. What exactly is this? The boy next to him breathed the air greedily, and he felt that his soul was sublimated. Take it. Yi Yun's voice faintly echoed in Long Qing's ears. Long Qing opened his eyes and looked at this drop of mysterious green liquid. He was so shocked that he quickly opened his mouth and swallowed it. Boom! An unimaginable vitality suddenly exploded in the body like thunder, rushing towards every inch of meridians and seeping into every trace of flesh and blood. A glistening green light enveloped Long Qing's entire body, making him look even more divine. It takes a few breaths. Long Qing's decades of injuries and hidden illnesses were all healed. From the cross-sitting position, he knelt down at Yi Yun's feet. Thank you, sir. Long Qing lost control of his emotions and burst into tears again. Unexpectedly, 100,000 years later, as the clan leader of Longhu's colorful dragon and carp lineage, he would be able to receive the master's favor again. The boy next to him watched all this blankly. A drop of mysterious emerald green liquid made the old patriarch recover instantly, and his cultivation returned to the first level of nirvana, and there are vague signs of breaking through to the second level of nirvana. The boy licked his lips, looking at the old man in white. His eyes showed an extremely fanatical look. Patriarch, what's wrong? A large number of ancient monks have gathered in the square, and they seem to be performing some kind of ritual. Suddenly a young man broke in and said with a panicked expression. Yi Yun smiled lightly. There are some weird things hidden in this ancient ruins, and now, they are finally coming to light. Long Qing stood up, looked at Yi Yun respectfully, and said softly, Master, let me go and take a look first. Let's go together. Yi Yun smiled slightly. Those demons and monsters that had been sleeping for many years were not something that these colorful dragons and carps could handle. Several people walked out. In this secret room, the shattered flesh and blood of Gong Sunli on the ground were suddenly enveloped by a stream of gray gas pouring out from the ground and disappeared. Yi Yun, who was walking halfway, only turned his head slightly and took a meaningful look, and at this moment, the big black horse seemed to have discovered the weirdness of this place and grinned a few times. Uncle Ma, what did you find? You smile so scary. The big black cat was trembling all over. It kept looking around, and the black cat hair on its back stood up. This underwater ancient ruins gives it an indescribable weird feeling. I'm not like a little kitten like you who talks too much. When it's time for me to work, I will never be lazy. Uncle Ma, I won't talk nonsense either. The big black horse turned around and smiled. Its whisk-like horse tail snapped, and gently patted the big black cat. The big black cat screamed and was photographed on the carriage, almost turning into a big black pancake. Uncle Ma, please be merciful. My little body cannot withstand your old man's ponytail. The big black cat begged for mercy again and again, feeling very aggrieved. Just wait, I guess I will let you deal with a guy. The big black horse bared his teeth and smiled. Is there another chance for me to take action? The big black cat jumped up in shock, its eyes twinkling with green light. The last time it took action, it was rewarded by the master. If he was allowed to take action this time, the big black cat would fight tooth and nail. The more serious the injury, the rewards you get are more generous. Seeing that the big black cat was full of energy and no longer as scared as before, the big black horse purred contemptuously and ignored it. Yi Yun followed Long Qing to the square. At this moment, there were some tribesmen with colorful dragons and carps standing around. They all transformed into human forms and looked at the illusory monks in front of them in surprise. Long Qing cast his gaze towards the square and was immediately surprised. On the square, the shadows of thousands of ancient monks gathered, which was something that had never happened before. Even if there had been a war between monks before, it was only a few hundred people. These monks gathered in the center of the square like ghosts, raising their arms constantly, as if they were worshipping something in the air. Long Qing frowned. This ancient ruins has protected their colorful dragon and carp clan for decades, and it has never been as strange as it is today. He once told his tribe that these were phantoms formed by illusory will, but today, he suddenly felt that those words seemed wrong. Everything in front of me can no longer be explained by the phantom of will. Long Qing, what kind of sect is this originally? Yi Yun asked with a chuckle. It seems to be called Taixunmen. It turned out there was a broken plaque, but it was later damaged. Long Qing said respectfully. Yi Yun's eyes jumped a few times, and he suddenly remembered the origin of this Taixuan sect. About 120,000 years ago, on Canglan continent, there is indeed a super sect called Taixuan sect. Because this sect expanded too fast, it annexed many sects at that time. Later, enemies from all walks of life united and directly destroyed it. This has been recorded in the history of Canglan continent. However, only an ancient person like him can remember things from 120,000 years ago. Yi Yun looked at the ground in a certain direction intentionally or unintentionally, and slightly curled up the corner of his mouth, revealing a mysterious smile. On the square, a sudden change occurred. The illusory shadows of thousands of ancient monks suddenly rose into the sky and gathered together. In the end, they merged together to form a middle-aged man wearing a blue armor. The body of this middle-aged man is in a state between half illusion and half reality. However, his aura is extremely powerful. It has reached the 7th level of nirvana. The pressure of the nirvana realm masters was like a tide, rolling towards the surroundings. Those members of the colorful dragon and carp tribe who were weak in cultivation swayed and retreated one after another. Upon seeing this, Long Qing rushed forward, opening his arms to block the rushing qi. The middle-aged man in blue armor opened his eyes slightly and said in a low and hoarse voice, "Wait, why don't you come over?" "When will we wait?" The colorful dragon and carp tribesmen behind Long Qing, old and young, all had crazy looks in their eyes at this moment. As if being summoned, they turned into a ray of light and rushed towards the center of the square. In the end, what happened? Long Qing was shocked. He turned around and saw that Xiaoyuzi was the only one left among the clan members around him, and the tribesmen who have been living in ancient ruins. At this moment, everyone seemed crazy. Chapter 78 Master Cat Fights the Inner Demon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The tribesmen of the colorful dragons and carp rushed to the center of the square and knelt down around the middle-aged man wearing cyan armor. They all looked extremely fanatical, like devout believers. "Return!" Long Qing roared angrily when he saw all his tribesmen were like this. It's a pity that none of the tribesmen paid attention to it and still fell into a state of fanaticism and couldn't extricate themselves. The young man watched all this blankly. He couldn't believe that his people would become like this one day. Could it be that, have the strangeness of ancient ruins affected these tribesmen over the years? And he has been outside all year round, looking for colorful golden lotuses, so he has not been affected. Could it be that the reason why the old patriarch was sober was that the drop of mysterious green liquid given by the master drove away the strangeness? The young man was filled with doubts. Yi Yun looked at all this calmly, looking calm and calm. Right now, the man in the green armor on the square suddenly opened his eyes wide, and 2 rays of light shot out, landing on Long Qing like lightning. "You guys, do you dare to fight?" Having said this, the middle-aged man waved his hand, and suddenly there was a broad long sword in his hand. The width of the sword is more than 3 times that of a normal sword, the length is also twice that of an ordinary sword. The bright sword body was shining with wisps of cold air. In just an instant, the bodies of the colorful dragon and carp clansmen kneeling on the ground were covered with a thin layer of ice. Seeing how arrogant this man in green armor was, Long Qing's liver and gallbladder burst into tears, his blood surged up, and his veins surged, and he was about to rush forward. Yi Yun's brows moved slightly. Long Qing was immediately imprisoned in place. Long Qing was only at the 2nd level of nirvana, and that inhuman guy was already at the 7th level of nirvana. Long Qing would die if he rushed forward. Yi Yun turned his head and glanced in a certain direction. The big dark horse felt something. Kitten, it's your turn to show off. Don't come back until you're half dead, the big dark horse grinned. Uncle Ma, don't worry. I have 9 lives, kitten. I've put all my preparations here today. No matter what, I have to fight to the death with that thing that is neither a ghost nor a human being. The big black cat suddenly stood upright, patted its chest with its paws, and swore viciously. It spoke extremely fiercely, but its eyes glowed green, as if there was some rare treasure in front of it. Go quickly, don't keep me waiting. The big black horse couldn't help but purr and laugh when he saw the big black cat being so good. The horse's tail curled slightly, and it threw the big black cat out like a sandbag. Whoosh! A group of black shadows broke through the water flow, came quickly from a distance, and slammed into the middle-aged man wearing a blue armor. What's this? The middle-aged man was slightly shocked. The black shadow came at an extremely fast speed, and he could only block it with his sword. Boom! The big black cat's front paws slapped the sword, and an unimaginable force rushed in along the sword. The middle-aged man could not stand and was forced to retreat continuously. The big black cat was also hit by a huge force and rolled several times in the water before it stabilized its body. It's so happy, Uncle Ma, thank you so much for the power of your ponytail. The big black cat was suspended in the air, with its 2 paws bowing in a certain direction. It transformed, and its body suddenly became extremely huge, like a hill, and the true form of the 9-tailed civet appeared. It turned out to be a 9-tailed civet cat at the 7th level of Nirvana. Long Qing stood there, looking at the big black cat, and his eyes widened. Where did this cat come from? Why would you help them, the colorful dragon and carp clan? Just when Long Qing was shocked, the boy who was even more shocked than him was his eyes widened, like a sculpture, unable to move. Isn't this the big black cat that's been lying on the carriage? Unexpectedly, it turned out to be a great demon in the Nirvana realm. Revealing his true form is so terrifying. The young man couldn't help but think of the big black horse that helped him break through the formation in Yunmeng Mountain. If a big black cat is so strong, so isn't the big black horse who made the big black cat do what he said along the way even more powerful? The young man couldn't imagine it anymore. He was now standing behind Yi Yun, looking at the godlike back, and the look in his eyes became even more fanatical. The man in the cyan armor shook his body at this moment and seemed to become a bit unreal. He looked up and down at the big black cat with a cold look in his eyes. What a great demon, but you are no match for me. Speaking of which, the middle-aged man held a sword and killed the big black cat. The sword light filled the sky, filling the entire square in an instant, and rushed towards the big black cat from all directions. The sword light was extremely astonishing, contains the huge power of a strong man in the Nirvana realm. The big black cat was full of energy and raised its huge cat paw to slap the middle-aged man. Boom boom. The huge cat claws scratched countless sword lights into pieces, but the sword light was sharp and contained coldness, which also injured the big black cat's claws. But it is a big demon after all, and its physical body is naturally strong. Even if you get a little injured, it doesn't hurt. The two started a fierce battle in the air. Perhaps the middle-aged man in the cyan armor did not want to kill the tribesman in the colorful dragon in the square, so he kept all his attacks high in the sky above the square. Despite this, the aftermath of the two men's fight still affected the square. Yi Yun's expression changed. In midair, an invisible protective light shield protected all the clan members of the colorful dragons and carp. Boom. The battle became more and more intense. The middle-aged man seemed to be no longer a human being. He would not be injured or bleed at all, even if he was scratched by a big cat. However, the body has only become a bit unreal. The two men fought for a while. When the middle-aged man saw how ferocious the big black cat was, he roared and retreated 100 meters. Then, he grabbed it with his big hand and saw streaks of gray-black light suddenly emerging from the heads of the dozens of colorful dragon and carp tribesmen. These rays of light were strange, making bursts of ghostly cries and howling sounds, and turned into huge devil heads, falling into the man's body. At this moment, his cultivation level increased sharply again, reaching the 8th level of Nirvana. Is this inner demon? That when Long Qing saw the gray-black devil heads, his face changed drastically and he shouted in shock. It turns out that inner demons have been born in the bodies of the tribesmen at some point. No wonder these tribesmen all went crazy just now. These inner demons don't seem to be strong, they seem to be just wisps of thoughts of avatars. Long Qing looked at the middle-aged man again. This guy can actually absorb the inner demon. Could it be said that he is the real inner demon? Long Qing's breathing quickened. On the Canglan continent, the legend of the inner demon was once widely circulated. The inner demon has always been mysterious, invisible, coming and going without a trace, and no one knows where it originated. Once the inner demon takes control of a monk, the blood in the monk's body will continue to be eroded, thus strengthening the inner demon. Inner demons are difficult to discover, and only an extremely powerful person can discern the existence of inner demons. There are many types of inner demons, but of any kind of inner demon, the best one is the clone. He can transform into thousands of clones in an instant and secretly enter the monk's body, swallowing blood, to strengthen the clone. Once you return to your true self, you can strengthen your original self. No wonder, the clan members have made extremely slow progress in cultivation over the years. It turns out that they are possessed by this inner demon. Long Qing murmured to himself. Chapter 79 The Will of the Strong, Ancient Heroic Spirits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is not a demon. Yi Yun's eyes flashed slightly and he said softly. Master, what is that? Long Qing turned around and asked respectfully. Yi Yun looked at the man in blue armor and said softly, this is an ancient heroic spirit. Heroic spirit? Long Qing was suddenly confused. He had never heard of heroic spirits. Yi Yun explained with a smile, this ancient ruins is the Shenlong Sect from 120,000 years ago. When it was opening up new territories and being vigorous, all the sects were wiped out. Many of those strong men who died were in the destiny realm and the life and death realm. The will of these people after death was condensed and remained attached to the remains of the sect, and the bottom of the water is an extremely cold place. There is a Shenlong spiritual vein below. The will of these strong men has been absorbing the yin energy of the Shenlong spiritual vein, and it has gradually grown stronger. Not only can various phantoms appear, but also start affecting your people. Oh. Long Qing nodded as if he understood. Yi Yun continued, this man should be the strongest among the Tai sect, so he has the strongest willpower. In order to survive in this world as a heroic spirit, he uses some kind of secret method, planted the Shenlong demon seed in the bodies of your people, absorbing the abundant blood of the colorful dragons and carps, but this alone was not enough. He finally absorbed the will of all the strong men of Tai sect and became the semi-entity he is now. Master, is this heroic spirit a ghost or a devil? Long Qing scratched his head and asked. Neither ghost nor demon, it is a special state, formed according to the will of a strong person. This kind of thing was rare in ancient times. Yi Yun said with a smile. Only then did Long Qing suddenly realize. He looked into the air and saw the sound of rumbling, the huge black figure and countless sword lights collided continuously. The battle between the two powerful men was extremely fierce. After absorbing the Shenlong demon seed, the middle-aged man's strength soared to the 8th level of the Nirvana realm, and he was able to steadily suppress the big demon in terms of strength. This made Long Qing feel a little worried. After all, this big monster dropped from the sky to help them. Master, how about I go over and help that big demon? Long Qing cupped his hands and asked Yi Yun to fight. No. Yi Yun smiled lightly and rejected Long Qing directly. Although the big black cat was injured, it became more and more powerful and showed no signs of defeat. Moreover, in this level of battle, the ray of divine power stored in the big black cat's body is also rapidly dissolving, constantly increasing the big black cat's strength. The big black horse in the distance was staring at the battle intently. Suddenly, his mouth was bald, revealing his big white teeth, and he chuckled. The kitten is about to break through. Its words didn't last long. The big black cat covered in blood suddenly shook his body and his aura suddenly became stronger. At this moment, it actually successfully broke through to the 8th level of Nirvana. I actually broke through. The big black cat suddenly retreated hundreds of meters in mid-air, raised 2 huge cat paws, and shouted excitedly. It never expected that it had been stuck on the 7th level of Nirvana for so many years, but now it would break through during the battle. This is simply the cat version of Su Wani. The big black cat was so excited that he suddenly turned around and found that there was another tail growing out of its back. this astonishing discovery immediately shocked him. It suddenly remembered what the master once said, and quickly went to feel the mysterious power in its body, only to find that more than half of the mysterious power had disappeared. The big black cat understood immediately, it benefited a lot from this battle. Most of the mysterious power was digested, and its realm was broken through. The most important thing is that it also grew a tail. It is a 9-tailed civet. Every time a tail grows, it represents a rapid increase in its strength. Huh, I have another tail. The big black cat suddenly got carried away with excitement and suddenly twisted its round butt and swung its 4 tails around. 9-tailed civet, I didn't expect that you also made a breakthrough. The middle-aged man looked at the big demon in front of him with a solemn expression in his eyes. After all, he was also a supremely powerful man during his lifetime, but with the help of his remaining consciousness, he condensed the body of this heroic spirit. In his current consciousness, he does not inherit many memories. But he also recognized that the big demon in front of him was the 9-tailed civet cat. Aren't you injured enough? The big black cat licked the wound on the cat's paw, and his mouth was filled with blood. It raised its eyes and looked at the man wearing cyan armor opposite, and its 2 huge cat eyes glowed green again. The injuries it suffered this time were far less severe than the ones the howling sky silver wolf had inflicted on it. Therefore, the big black cat is worried that the reward may come to nothing. Think of this. It rushed towards the man and attacked desperately. In the big black cat's mind, he either killed the man completely without Uncle Ma taking action, or suffer a more serious injury, and then you can get a reward from the master. For the reward, the big black cat really worked hard. Seeing the big black cat's performance, Yi Yun nodded slightly. After all, it is a pet adopted halfway. If he doesn't even want to die, what's the use of such a pet? Fortunately, the big black cat did not disappoint him. Not only does he fight extremely hard, but he is also extremely funny at ordinary times. He and Big Dark Horse are a good pairing. Yi Yun looked in another direction. I saw only tens of thousands of meters deep underground. There is a silver coffin, quietly suspended within the Xianin's spiritual veins, slowly absorbing the spiritual energy of Xianin's spiritual veins, and on this coffin, the remaining faint blood can be vaguely seen. Those flesh and blood came from Gong Sun Li's flesh and blood. The missing pile of flesh and blood of Gong Sun Li in the secret room was secretly sucked in by the guy in the coffin. Yi Yun smiled slightly. The guy in the coffin is about to be born. I just don't know if he has the guts to be born, and this ancient heroic spirit on the ground, as one of that guy's chess pieces, has lost control at this moment and no longer obeys his orders. Interesting. Yi Yun put his hands behind his back and watched the battle above with interest. One is an ancient heroic spirit, and the other is a 10,000-year corpse demon. These 2 guys each have their own background, and it will be difficult for anyone to control the other, especially this ancient heroic spirit, who was a powerful person in the life and death realm from 120,000 years ago. Compared with the predecessor of the zombie demon, he was at least 1 level more powerful. Therefore, Yi Yun is waiting and waiting. Let's see where the next drama will go. Boom. The fierce battle has come to an end. The big black cat fought with no regard for cost, leaving wounds all over his body, and the man's body was completely weakened by the beating. He seemed to have no ability to fight anymore. Right now, boom. The entire ancient ruins suddenly trembled, as if there was something huge underground that suddenly turned over. Chapter 80. The heroic spirit is defeated and the 10,000-year-old corpse demon is born. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What happened? Long Qing stabilized his body and shot a stream of spiritual consciousness in the direction of the ground, but it returned in vain and did not find any clues. Master, what's going on? Long Qing finally asked Yi Yun helplessly for advice. Don't be anxious, just take your time and watch. Yi Yun smiled and said calmly. Long Qing's cultivation was not enough to see the silver coffin deep in Xuanin's spiritual veins. Seeing that the master did not tell him, Long Qing could only smile helplessly, and looked at the ancient heroic spirit in front of him patiently. Mid-air, the already elusive man in cyan armor suddenly circled his body, turned into a ray of cyan light, penetrated into the ground, and disappeared in an instant. You actually ran away. The big black cat was also stunned when he saw his opponent suddenly disappearing. It hurriedly sent out its consciousness to search the ground, but was surprised to find that the guy had completely disappeared. This makes it full of frustration. I originally wanted to kill the man in blue armor in one go, but unexpectedly I let him escape in the end. The big black cat quickly shrank its body, turned into a black light, and landed at Yi Yun's feet. He knelt on the ground and cried, "Master, I didn't mean to let him escape." "I know, you go back first." Yi Yun smiled faintly, waved his sleeves, and the big black cat disappeared. Turn out to be, this supreme demon cat was also raised by the master. Long Qing suddenly showed a look of realization on his face. He suddenly felt useless. All the cats raised by the master are so much more powerful than him. Yi Yun clasped his hands behind his back, calmly, his eyes piercing through eternity, watching the changes taking place in the Xianin spiritual veins underground. At this moment, the ancient heroic spirit had entered Xuanin's spiritual veins and quickly approached the silver coffin. The silver coffin also released billowing gray smoke and attacked the ancient heroic spirit. The ancient heroic spirit used some kind of secret technique and suddenly broke through the barrier of gray smoke and plunged into the silver coffin. Then, the coffin began to tremble. "So you're not stupid," a roar came from the coffin. The body of the 10,000-year-old corpse demon that had been lying in the coffin was shaking violently, as if a force had invaded his body. Seeing this, Yi Yun nodded silently. It turns out that this ancient heroic spirit has been hiding himself. In fact, he has obtained a lot of memory inheritance. He has been disguising himself. In the early stage, he was willing to be driven by the 10,000-year-old corpse demon, pretending to be a ghost in the ancient ruins, and successfully planted inner demons in the tribe of Colorful Dragon and Lily. All of this is the plan behind the 10,000 years corpse demon. This corpse demon finally wants to devour the ancient heroic spirit to help him achieve great feats and break through to the Destiny realm in one fell swoop. Becoming a corpse demon in the Destiny realm, he has dominated the world since then, and is almost immortal. However, this 10,000-year corpse demon also miscalculated. This ancient heroic spirit was good at calculations and had been pretending. Even Yi Yun didn't notice it. In Yi Yun's calculation, the 10,000 years corpse demon should be about to be born. After birth, he can break through to the Destiny realm by devouring the chess piece of the ancient heroic spirit. Yi Yun sighed lightly. This ancient heroic spirit is also a man of great wisdom and foolishness, and can endure the zombie demon for 10,000 years. However, it is still too difficult to defeat the 10,000 years corpse demon. After all, that guy is always scheming. The address had been chosen before death, and before death, he was buried within Xuanin's spiritual veins. Even if his soul is destroyed, however, if this body can be transformed into a smooth corpse demon, it can also restore some remaining memories of the previous life. In this case, it can be regarded as living in this world in disguise. It can be said, the 10,000-year-old zombie demon and the ancient heroic spirit are all people who have died. In the past, two guys who are neither humans nor ghosts have been fighting wits and courage for so many years, and the moment is about to reveal the answer. Buzz. The silver sarcophagus was shaking violently. Within the body of the 10,000 years corpse demon, two forces collided fiercely, both trying to seize the dominance of this corpse. A layer of green energy appeared on the surface of the corpse demon's body, as if the ancient heroic spirit had the upper hand at this moment. The next moment, the green aura disappeared and was covered with a layer of gray aura. It went back and forth like this for about a stick of incense. The gray energy finally completely defeated the green energy and took back the dominance of the body. Call. This 1,000-year-old corpse demon suddenly opened its eyes and blew out a strong wind, blowing away the silver coffin cover. Then he sat up and completely swallowed the aura of the ancient heroic spirit, and his strength began to soar rapidly. The spiritual energy in Xuanin's spiritual veins surged in and was absorbed into his body. Destiny realm, open. The aura on his body became stronger and stronger, and the corpse demon shouted fiercely, and the silver coffin suddenly exploded. In an instant, he entered the Destiny realm from the peak of the 10th level of Nirvana realm. The entire Xianin spiritual energy was completely absorbed by him. The corpse demon stood underground, looking around, with a crazy smile on his face. He was wearing a gray-white robe. He was extremely tall, his skin was green-black, his eyes were blood-red, and he looked extremely strange. The nails on his 10 fingers were white and long, shining with silver luster. His hair was disheveled, and his face showed a ferocious look. Li Guding, I almost lost my body to you, how can you bear it? That when the corpse demon said this, he looked above his head, and a look of fanaticism suddenly appeared in his eyes. He murmured, I have raised these colorful dragons and carps for so long. If I eat them all now, they will definitely improve my cultivation level again. Speaking of which, he shook his body violently, turned into a grey mist, and quickly rushed towards the ground. Spider-web-like cracks appeared in the square, and a grey mist rushed out from inside. The mist reformed into a tall corpse demon in the air. Long Qing stared at all this in stunned silence. He could naturally tell that the old man with green skin and blood eyes in front of him was a corpse demon. This corpse demon's cultivation level is also too high. He actually reached the realm of destiny. Long Qing has lived in this underwater ruins for decades, but he never knew that there was a corpse demon of the destiny realm hidden underneath. Long Qing felt horrified. I thought this ancient ruins were very safe before, but I didn't expect that first there were ancient heroic spirits causing trouble, and then there was a 10,000-year-old corpse demon buried deep underground. This place is really weird. If the master hadn't suddenly appeared, I'm afraid the entire colorful dragon and carp clan would have been buried here. The corpse demon glanced at Long Qing, not caring at all, and set his sights on the dozens of colorful dragon and carp clansmen in the square. These are the people closest to him. This colorful dragon and carp tribe member has strong blood energy, and the sweet taste of the blood makes him want to devour these colorful dragon and carp people. As for the colorful dragon carp on the second floor of the Nirvana realm in the distance, it is naturally his bag. Wait for him to eat these colorful dragon carp from the Divine Bridge realm first, and then eat the colorful dragon carp from the second level of Nirvana realm. As for Yi Yun next to him, he simply ignored him.